And we are live. Hello, everyone. My name is Tamara Woods. This is my channel, and today we are doing Writer's Workshop, which is a writing book club where we talk about books to help us become better writers, essentially. Would y'all like to introduce yourselves?
Which way you
We
want
can,
to
we can start with
Who's
you,
starting?
Amber.
go? Is it usually you pull it or say?
I know.
I talk. I volunteer tribute. I'm Amber Kraft. I write paranormal romance. I currently have 2 books out. After all the books we've read this year, I think I'm gonna go back and redo some thinking before I get book 3 out. Yeah, that's me.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I am Sky. I am a fantasy author who typically writes paranormal romance under the name SD Hegyes, and I have a lot going on. So I don't even know anymore what I'm doing these days. Hi, I'm here.
Thanks for being here.
We're so excited.
Yeah.
And I am CJ Bloyer. I'm a writer of things and an independent piano teacher. I don't currently have anything published, so yeah.
You have a blog.
I do have a blog. That is true. It is a piano blog.
Ooh,
It's mostly for
you do have
adults.
It's on your other thing.
Oh, that's right. My free YA fantasy serial that is not finished.
But it's published. It's got
Yeah, but
there's like
episodes.
36 episodes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a substantial amount of episodes, really.
Yeah.
That's something, and it's good, and it's going somewhere, and I can't wait to see you finish it.
I do need to do that. It's on my list.
Your story is the only reason I'm on that platform. Like, I was gonna just I don't ever get on it. I'm just gonna take my profile off, and I can't because I still want to see the end of the story.
Aww. Well, then, yeah, I'll definitely have to work on that.
Hey, cool gamer, how you doing? So today we are discussing. I am sharing the screen. The Short Story Romance Handbook: How I Make Over $1,000 a Month Writing Short Story Romance. It only took me 3 months, by Hope Ford. And this book was written. When was it written? What is the copyright on it?
2018.
Yeah, 2018. Yeah. It was published 2018, and she's still been pumping out a lot of work.
Yeah.
Before I even realized that this book existed, with my Bliss business, I had did like a newsletter swap with her, and I started following her newsletter, and she sends out 3 newsletters a day, 6 days a week, and she's often talking about other people's work, but in each one there's something new of hers. It's crazy. I don't know how she's doing it. So I feel like she has like the social backing and like the experience to have written something like this.
Yeah, I love her books. I didn't know she did that many newsletters. That's insane. On top of writing as much as she does.
Yeah, I don't know how she does it. Now they're not all long, but still, that's a lot. For someone who struggles to like write 2 a month.
I feel like I'm barely managing 1 a month. Like, kudos.
Exactly.
But my thing is that, and I think that this is important, and one of the things I like about her, and I like about, we've talked about this in some of the other books, is that she's very clear that this is what works for her. It may not work for you exactly. And this idea that one of the things I actually, when the book came up, because I forgot we were doing this today, so I read it like this morning. But when the name came up, when the author's name, I was like, I know that name. I've seen it. I've seen it. So I went back to my Kindle, and yeah, I have a bunch of her books. and I've read a bunch of them and like enjoy them. And yeah, they're short. But one of the things I used her books for was when I started getting back into writing romance, I realized that I can't write a full novel and edit it and do all of that stuff really quickly. Like 50,000 plus words, I don't have the chops for that yet. So I was thinking about looking at shorter fiction, and her books were ones that I've been using as sort of templates. Not template is a bad word. Guides, maybe. I used it, like I binge read like a bunch of her short fiction and kind of annotated them to see like, okay, this is what happens here. And and as I read through this book, I was like, I see now where her brain is. And I could have saved myself like 6 days worth of binge reading. not like that was a hardship, but I could have found out everything if I just read this.
Yeah. So all of us here, we write different types. We have different genres that we cover. Do you feel like what she talks about in this book would be applicable? Yes, to your genres and what you write?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, mine has more of the paranormal aspect in it, but yeah, the romance side of it definitely.
I was gonna say yes, as far as like the paranormal romance goes, but if I were to delve into more of the fantasy, with all the world building that fantasy requires, I think can it be done? Possibly, especially if you were to do like a series.
Yeah.
But it'll be harder.
See, and I was thinking about it in terms of a cozy. When I wrote Closed Out, that was, I think it was 15,000 words. And that was difficult. It was very hard because it was for an anthology, so it had to be shorter. And it was really hard to make sure that I had like a story that worked in that sort of a space. So, and with her method, I think it was less than 10,000, like what, six to.
Yes. It was 4,500 to 7,500.
Yeah.
So I don't think that with the cozy mystery that it would work. I think that maybe doing serials or something.
Yeah.
But, well, I was going to say, one of the things that struck me, and this is when I was doing my research, instead of reading this delightful piece, one of the things that I like that struck me and still like as I read through this book is everything within the story is compact. There's not a lot of extra. So there is a style there. I think it would be possible with cozy mystery, even to some extent with maybe fantasy or sci-fi. But I also think you have to know your audience, like your romance, like the romance peoples, who love romance and are like, we're already prepared for that kind of timeline. And it's not that cozies or fantasy or whatever aren't, but one of the, being a cozy addict and being a huge fan of fantasy, one of the great joys of those two genres is the meandering. When I was in college, I took a class on 16th century British literature. And one of the things we talked about was the difference between a romance, not a small R romance, like romantic love and all that, but what was called a romance versus an epic. And again, big E. So an epic goes from A to B to C, and it goes there in a very straightforward pattern. We have very clear stops along the way, and we hit those points very clearly. And that's what I think she does. She has very clear stops along the way. She's hitting all of these marks. A romance, the characters start moving forward, and then they get distracted and they go off on a little bit of tangent, and then they come back to the main idea, and they go along a little, they get off on the tangent. And we were talking about this in context of I don't know if the Fairy Queen, which is a epic poem written by a guy who hated the Irish and was really in real life a horrid person, but wrote beautifully. And his great work, The Fairy Queen, does this. His characters go on this journey, and then they get distracted by a place or a person or a side quest. Whereas when we look at, like, I was rereading one of her books this morning. When I was rereading it, and I'm kind of comparing to what she says in this book, she's very clear about A to B to C to D. There's no question that the characters are going to proceed along that way. And so I think that when you're using this type of structure, you can do it for a cozy or for fantasy, but I don't know that you would get the richness that you do in the best cozies or the best fantasies. And so you kind of miss your audience a little.
Yeah, I guess that it probably is possible, but I do think it would be difficult. And I don't know. When I read a cozy, I kind of like to be able to settle into it and like take my time. Yeah, really. It's like a cozy, comforting, slow kind of thing. It's hot cocoa. It's, it's relaxing. And I think you'd lose that if you wrote it, if it was like much shorter.
Right.
Not to say that it's a bad thing,
And in that's what she's saying. I mean, it's like your audience expects that, so that's fine. They're longer and stuff. But I gotta say, kudos to anybody who writes short stuff, because to be able to go to A to B to C and make it still good enough that thousands of people want to read it is something I can't do. I've got to have my 50,000 plus words. I've got to delve deep into the characters. I can't just say, here's the facts, here you go, hope you like it. I can't do that. My brain works too deeply into the character. I can't. I've read her books. I love them. I can't. I see the structure. I see everything we've learned, but I can't. I couldn't do it. I couldn't write it. Nothing that short.
Yeah.
I can write short erotica pretty easily, but
and it's good. Not gonna lie.
Thanks. Oh, that's embarrassing. Okay, but yeah, to do it with a mystery, like, I used to write short stories that were mysteries, but they weren't cozy mysteries, and they also left way too many things open. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah,
a normal mystery reader, I'm going to tick them off. They're not going to enjoy that. They want all the puzzle solved.
Yeah.
It's like a Rubik's Cube that has like one line where the colors are wrong. Nobody wants that.
No.
So we were discussing before this that this book, for anyone who's watching, it's very, very, very short.
Mm-hmm.
Just like she writes her romances short, she wrote this short as well. And she'd said in the book that she was thinking about doing an update, but as far as I can tell, she has not, because I was looking to see.
And the website she mentions near the beginning, I think it's called shortstorysidehustle.com is down for maintenance right now, which was one of the things that
Yeah.
was a little disappointing to me. I was like, I want to check it out.
Yeah,
And
same.
yeah, and I signed up for like her newsletter for all that, and I don't think that I got a welcome email back, or maybe it got lost in spam. 'Cause that certainly happens.
Curse you, spam. You are so good at some things and so bad at others.
True.
Facts.
So so she discussed how short
I
her
like
stories are, and oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
No,
I
please
got lagged on this end. Sorry. We're getting new internet. Thank God. No, I was gonna say I like that, like her books. It was short and sweet, and she didn't. I like how she didn't like take the reader for granted. Like she's like, I'm not gonna bore you. If you're reading this, then you already know the craft. You already know, the basics of everything.
Yeah.
So here's what I do on top of that. Like you already know that. Here's what I do. Not going through chapter on chapter of plot and structure and all that, trying to reteach you along with what she does.
Yeah.
And it definitely was not repetitive.
No.
Yeah.
It was short and to the point, and I appreciated that.
Yeah.
Especially after last week's meandering or last month's meandering mess where it was a very boring train ride that didn't want to stop.
I think that was my favorite thing, was the fact that the whole point of this book was to talk about how she writes short fiction, and she kept this short too, kind of to go along with her own idea of writing short fiction and making money off of it, enough to make almost $1,000 in 3 months, that she proved our point with doing this book just as short.
Mm-hmm.
So, gosh, how do you talk about a book this short without talking about too much of the process? So essentially, she was talking about releasing one thing per week for 3 months, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And then
But
on the
she
fourth was
also-
a bundle.
Yeah, she was also talking about bundling, which that's one of the things I love about short romance is I've picked up bundles of like fantasy or mystery or other genres that I read, and they're great. But I'm 3/4 of the way through the book, through like one of the stories, and it says I'm only 20% of the way through the book. And so I'm like panicking for a second, going, wait a minute. They're wrapping up the plot. How am I getting there?
What's going on?
I don't understand. And then I'll remember, oh yeah, this is a bundle. So I think it works really well for short fiction. I also love the idea, and she talks about this, that bundling often gets you an extra boost in the individual stories as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Like anecdotally, I've noticed this to be true with other authors that I know who write like short erotica romances, and they're pumping them out like on a weekly basis, 1 or 2 stories, and then in like 4 to 6 weeks they're putting it all together as a bundle. And from what I understand, the sweet spot for a bundle is like 6 to 9 stories.
When it's short fiction?
What is short erotica?
Okay.
6 to 9. But no, seriously, that's really what they say.
So I found the bundling interesting because, like, every novel writing author I talks about bundling their series, but they always talk about bundling after so many months after the last book has been published. So I did find that point of bundling almost right away after finishing these shorter pieces Like she was talking about publish 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, and then bundling those 3 the 4th week. And I'm like, that's too soon. Like in my mind, I'm like, there's not enough time for you to make any sales from them individually before you're pumping out this bundle that, of course, everyone's going to buy because they can get all 3 at once for cheaper. Like, how does this work?
How does this magic happen?
I also think that it's more of a both sides of the coin thing. So you get people who, like short fiction, you can read quick.
Mm-hmm.
So she's putting out 3 books in a week, or 3, snap those up, and then maybe I miss a couple weeks, so I might get a bundle the next time. The other thing is you're looking. This is a supposition or a possible. My thought would be that she's looking at 2 different audiences. The one audience is the people who are purchasing the books when they come out. They get them, they read them, they get the next one, they read it, they get the next one, they read it. Okay. A bundle is for a separate audience who, like you said, they're not going to buy 3 99-cent books in a row when they can wait for the next week and get all of them for $2 or whatever she charges for them. Mm-hmm. So I think that she's looking at 2 different audiences. So she's double dipping. Is that what you call that? Like, or expanding her audience that way? Like, I would think that kind of marketing structure, purchasing, I don't know what the technical term is for it, but that would be designed to catch people who aren't following her, waiting for the next one to come out, but who are trolling around in either searching specifically. And she talks about, like, she uses keywords in her subtitles so that those are searchable. So somebody who's searching specifically for what she writes, that bundle's going to come up. They're going to see the individual books, but they're not the people who are waiting for them to come out next. They're like, look, I could get all 3 of them for cheaper. Mm-hmm. Now they're mine. So like getting 2 different audiences, the people on the front end and the people on the back end.
Yeah.
Well, and you also have, like, people that haven't ever heard of her that are trying her for the first time. They're going to want to buy 1 book to see if they like it before they go into the bundles. And then they'll decide what they want. Like, I buy the bundles because I spend 1 weekend a month. That's my reading time. Nobody bother me. Past that, I've got 40 books that have been in my Kindle for 2 years I've yet to be able to read because I'm only going to get that 1 weekend a month. And I'm not going to remember the plot, a month from now. So.
Yeah. I think when you think of it in the terms you're talking about, where it's 2 different audiences versus like someone who is releasing novels in a series and then releasing a bundle, that's not necessarily going to be 2 different audiences. It might be the same audience for those books, just because so much more time comes out in between each individual book release and then the bundle itself. So I didn't think of it that way. That is true.
I think too, there's if you're putting your bundle and stuff in like Kindle Unlimited, there's going to be a different reader there. Yeah. The reader who's like kind of wanting to read everything all at once. They have that weekend and their weekend for reading. So they're diving in. It's interesting when you start thinking about the different platforms. Did she mention, because I cannot remember, did she mention if she was just Kindle and Kindle Unlimited or if she was a wide author?
She did. She mostly talked about Kindle and Kindle Unlimited. I don't remember her talking about any other. Like, this was almost exclusively on Amazon, as far as I can tell.
She doesn't have paperbacks. I'm going to double check that before I actually say that out loud. Hold on, just a moment. I'm pretty certain she doesn't have paperbacks. And if you're in Kindle Unlimited, you can't be on other platforms.
True.
So that's not the right person. Stupid sponsored
Yeah, I know
ads.
she did talk about KU.
Because I wonder too, how would this? Misty
Okay.
K says she said Kindle
Yeah, she's on
Unlimited.
KU. Yeah, she's
So I
KU
wonder
on
how
all her
this would.
books, almost.
I wonder how that would work with someone who was wide. Like, could you do? Would this work if you weren't in Kindle Unlimited? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Because that's
I'm
a
not
different
sure.
audience too. Those who are wide have a completely different type of audience than those who go in Kindle Unlimited, because
Right.
part of the reason Kindle Unlimited is so popular is because you only pay a certain amount and you read as many books as you want as long as you return them. And I think Kindle Unlimited has now updated it so that it's 20 books at a time versus it used to be 10 books at a time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
This has not helped
It
me.
because I got. It's just like it's not. I got so many crap books when it updated last month. I don't have enough. Let's just add to it.
I want you to know, when they moved to 20 books, I was really good about, I only get 10 romances out and then I get 10 of something else. Sometimes writing books, sometimes knitting books, like trying really hard to limit.
This was my problem. I had just made myself a KU list of all the books that, as I cycled through my 10, I would buy. And so then literally, I got the notification. It was like, well, I gotta wait now. It was horrible.
See, Rita says, I believe it will work for wide, and Misty Case thinks it would too, but she's a newbie to e-publishing. So this book was a
I
quick
think
peek,
it
I
would,
guess.
but it'd take a little bit of strategicness, because I think she was able to get up to the 1,003 months because they were KU, so people could, okay, I've read this one, let me get off it, get another one. And so she was able to get the page reads and get her name out there first. So I think if you did that maybe for the first year before going wide with certain books, or the ones that were older, it would work, because then you'd be established your name already. Versus just as a new author going out there, you don't have the name recognition, you don't have people who have read the book to give you the backing of my stuff's good to then just say I'll go wide.
I think that's one of the reasons, like, at least me as a reader, that I've invested in KU and I'm still doing it just because I'm able to, I could test out new to me authors and see if their writing works for me. And I haven't I haven't lost anything, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
It's like there's no pain in that investment. So, and I think that that's why there's been such a surgence in like the short romance on KU. It's pretty vast, and I think that's one of the reasons, because readers feel comfortable giving newbies a shot.
Yeah. And it definitely, at least in my opinion, as a KU subscriber, it complements my use of our libraries online, digital book checkout, in that if I want to read something, I can go to the library first. If the library doesn't have it, I can go to KU and there it is.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about potentially trying this out.
I'm going to.
You are?
I want to.
I was thinking about, I was like, that'd be really interesting to try out at the beginning of the year. As no more projects for 2022 for me. No more. I'm done. I'm good. But
He's a liar.
I know. I'm gonna try real
I'll believe
hard.
that when I see it.
I'm gonna try really, really
That's
hard.
like me saying that's about as believable as me saying I'm gonna get my page and a half list of shit done by the end of the year. It ain't happening.
It might. I have
It
faith
could
in both
happen.
of us.
It could happen, but this is what I want from you, Tamara. I need a list of all your current projects right now, and then at the end of the year, I need your list of current projects right then, so I can check and see how much of a liar you are.
I will send
She's
you.
holding you accountable.
I will send you a Discord message.
We need all your projects that are in progress to be shared with us on Google so that if you work on them, we know.
Oh no! So much accountability, so little time.
Oh.
So, I was thinking about this new project for the beginning of the year.
That's just going to start next week, guys. She's going to start it next week.
I mean, it's not coming up or anything.
Oh
It
my
makes you
goodness.
in the spirit of a new
I'm out.
project,
We really need to do project author too. Oh, okay. Let's not do that at this moment. So,
That's your project. Right
but
there. Prepped over.
So I was thinking about doing this short story thing because with Medium, I'm writing 2 to 3 stories a week, generally speaking, and together they're probably around 5,000 words.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's absolutely possible for me to write just one story that's that length, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. It can't hurt to try, right?
Yeah, might as well. With her, what did she say was her?
4,500 to
4,500.
7,500?
Yeah.
Yeah, 4,500 to 7,500. So
I am not going to go that short. I will be the first to say that. I was thinking somewhere between 10 and 20, because that way, even if they don't do good on their own, I could always pull them and possibly use them in anthologies and future projects if I ever find out about anthologies. And with all the anthologies I've found recently that I've been a part of, the length that they wanted was between 10 and 20K. So to me, that's a really good sweet spot.
Yeah.
Especially for my genre.
I was going to say, yeah, you have to take into account the genre.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these are totally going to be bliss stories for me, so they don't have to be like, you know,
super long,
in depth.
And then, like, with my plan was to kind of combine it with one of the other challenges we're already doing with the 7-day book challenge, because then I could do the 7 days, work on just that project, and maybe even do what that book has us doing, getting them ready for with editing and publishing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Maybe combining all of that into one process.
Holy crap.
Maybe. Like, I'm dreaming big, yo. I'm dreaming big.
That's like a monster project.
Okay.
I love that idea, though.
Your aspirations are about like mine. I've literally put all our books from the last 3 years in a notebook, and I was reading them Friday going, okay, I want to do this, and then after that I'm going to do this, and like literally taking every book we've had and making my own little, this is how I'm going to write from now on. This is my 2023 year plan to like revamp my entire writing.
That's what I was
work, but we're going to.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shortest I've ever written was 12K,
I mean,
and
after
that
we read
was
the
for an
7
anthology. My novellas are at least 20 to 25K.
Yeah,
and Rita writes romances. Everyone has that sweet spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to work with what you're comfortable with doing. Clearly, Hope is very comfortable with the short story.
Mm-hmm.
About, what was it? Alpha males, billionaires.
Tattooed alpha
bad boys. Yeah.
Yeah. She has a nice,
really
really long like collection of series all about motorcycle gang members. Like multiple series of motorcycle gang, tatted men, part of motorcycle gangs. I'm like, I'm here for it, but at the same time, that's not my thing. But you obviously have your niche, and it's working for you.
And I think that that's important, is that, like, we have to remember, each of us has to remember that we have what we have, and embrace it. And so much of, I worry about us sometimes because we talk a lot about, oh, I would like to try that or whatever. But I worry about us comparing ourselves to other people. And you have to stick with what you're comfortable with, what you're comfortable writing. Yeah. If you're not comfortable writing, Bliss style goodies, just trying to figure out how to say that appropriately. Then don't write that. Like, the first couple of romances I wrote many, many years ago, in my teens, were much closer to. Do any of you know Grace Livingston Hill? Are you familiar with her?
The name sounds familiar, but I don't know why. So I'm going to say no.
She was like a prolific, and I don't even know if she's like Carolyn Keene, where it's one person writing under multiple names, or if it was this one really prolific romance writer. But she wrote sweet romances. There was no sex. There was no. It was always very sweet. It was always very, very affirming and traditional. And so, because that was my first exposure to romance, that's what I wrote initially. I don't think I write romance like that anymore because I don't like it very much. So yeah,
your horizons have expanded.
My horizons have expanded. Yes. So, gotta write what you're comfortable with.
Yes.
Indeed.
I think going with that idea, I think a lot of this with the experimentation is trying to find out what you're comfortable with. Because, like, I have started figuring out what's comfortable for me is that for, like, especially with my paranormal romance, I like 50 to 60,000 words, no more than like 70,000 word for my novels. And, like, I don't like a lot of the sex, but I don't mind them being foul-mouthed as a sailor either. Like, they can be foul-mouthed all they want. Congratulations, go curse up a storm. But I don't want to keep the sex either. Like, I am a very
keep
big
the P and the V in the dark.
Yeah,
behind closed doors.
Turn the lights off, yo.
That is private.
CK said, I think that was her point too. You write what you want for a quick read. She created a pen for the fantasy she wanted to read, sticks to a basic structure, and just writes them.
Exactly.
And Rita says, my upcoming box sets are for 2 of my 6 book series. So they are going to be 3 books each, and each book is 50K-ish. Ooh, that's going to be some juicy reading.
Mm-hmm.
I would want to hire an editor, though, slowing that down. Yeah, I think that if you release that quickly, you can absolutely find an editor who could work with you, but it's going to have to be someone who has a very quick turnaround and is comfortable with being available to you.
But she did give some options for that. Like, she mentioned Fiverr, and I know that there are people who have mixed feelings about Fiverr, but there are people out there who are available. But yeah, you are going to have to do the research.
Well, I mean, you could also plan it ahead to where, you write a month ahead of whatever's being edited, or 2 months ahead, write month 3 while you're getting them to edit month 2 while you're releasing month 1's books.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
You have that time built in for that. So, but
And pay the price tag.
I
Exactly.
like, even though they're short. Yeah.
Go on.
I mean, I like that even though the book was short, she broke down sort of how she writes it. Like,
Yeah.
I would almost think her brain just works and has the story in her head as fast as she writes. But I mean, she actually has how she writes the descriptions for the male and female lead, and then she writes the summary, and then she writes the breakdown. And we've seen that in other books, you know, take the bigger picture, break down the characters, and then break down the story in the
Right.
next book. And as fast as she writes, I wouldn't think she'd have time to do all that.
But, and this is what she said, is the outline, the description is not very long. Like, she talked about
Right.
how one chapter, all it said was chapter 5, sex. Like,
That's true. And I appreciated that.
I don't think that there's like, we, you know, in the writing community, we talk a lot about, are you a plotter? Are you a discovery writer? Are you a define yourself somehow? But I don't know that you necessarily have to be all in one or all in the other, or do something that isn't going to work for you. Again, I go back to, and you were saying this, Amber, we can decide what works for us
Mm-hmm.
and then go from there.
Yeah.
Hello, okay, right? Have you checked out the group she has with Frankie Love? Lots of good tips there on how to make this work. No, please tell us more.
Yeah.
Is this on Facebook? Is this a Discord thing?
We
What's
are
up?
waiting with bated anticipation.
Yes. That
Did we
is
read a
wonderful.
book from Frankie Love as well recently, like a for a writer's workshop? Like, because that name sounds familiar and I don't know why.
No,
I don't think so.
I've got it pulled up. No, we didn't.
Okay.
Not even a Frankie at all.
No, but Frankie loves covers.
Yeah.
Pretty nice. Pretty spicy meatballs.
That was another thing, though, that I think works well for like the contemporary romance and erotica. That is going to be a little harder with the fantasy and paranormal romance. Is the covers. So she talks about in this book that she does her own covers, and she got to deal with like one of the image sites, like Deposit Photos. I don't remember which one she mentioned, but one of them. And she got 100+ images that she can use for covers to create her own. And I don't know about y'all, but I am not going to sit around and try to create a fantasy cover because it's going to look like crap. Just saying. I can probably do a contemporary and make it look halfway decent, but there's no way in any chances I'm going to make a fantasy one look good.
Yeah, she
And
got
so,
big stock photo where there was a deal for $70 for unlimited covers. So
Okay.
Wow.
she basically got every picture for $1 for her next. And that's a good plan. I mean, whether you make your covers or not, if you already know what you want the cover to look like in your head, it's less have to go through with the designer and be like, I want this picture and I want this idea. Go for it.
Yep.
That's another thing. Having that space to get all those covers done. Like, I've noticed that the erotica authors, whether it's contemporary or if they're writing like paranormal or whatever, a lot of them are designing their own covers because they're pushing out so many books so quickly. It just works better with their writing structure.
Even if I did have that kind of talent, I ain't got that kind of time.
True. I think that, it has to be something that you want to learn how to do and want to invest your time in.
Oh,
Yeah.
I do. I very much do. That's the problem. I don't have the time. My kid needs to hurry up and get out of school. No, I'm just playing. I don't want to grow up like that.
You are not ready for that.
Not ready. That even if I was ready for that, that means another move to wherever she's either going back to Washington or going to Oregon for school. That's another freaking cross country move. I'm not ready for that, even if I'm ready for her to grow up. Just
She talks about character over plot when it's this short, which I totally agree with.
Yes.
Definitely.
That was one of the things I really do like about is the plot isn't necessarily terribly complex. I mean, there's definitely a formula there, but her characters are compelling. She does a good job of internal monologue. She does a good job of character interaction. And not just the two main characters, but with side characters. She sets them up well. She gives them good personalities. Her villains are, delightful.
They're not cookie cutter either, which I appreciate a
No.
lot.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Eva. I missed this. If an editor has the space, they prefer the same author back to back. It gets easier and easier as you work together. So I imagine it'd become like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
I think the trick to making this kind of thing work and being able to publish on the kind of release schedule while working with either an editor or a cover designer is being upfront. Hey, I'm working on this many projects. This is the timeline I'm looking at. Are you available for all of these for this dates? And get them back within that time frame, and making sure every one of those outside forces are on the same pages as you.
Yeah.
And once that's all set up, you could make it go just like that, honestly.
Thoughts, thinking thoughts. Oh, okay. I know it's a little earlier, but since this book was pretty short, I thought we could probably end a little earlier. So, do you guys want to give any final thoughts? We can start with CJ and work our way back to me.
All right. We didn't talk about this at all, but she did talk about choosing a pen name. And that was very helpful for me. I have a pen name, but I've always kind of second guessed it because it's something I chose when I was 16. And I've never used it. I've it's just sat there in the back and but overall, I thought this book was really helpful. I think I've said this about other books we've read, but this is one that's going to go in my, yes, I need this when I go to start publishing, and this is going to be a part of that roadmap, and that will be very helpful. So if that's something that you find, I highly recommend it. That is all.
I agree with everything she just said. I'm actually looking now to see if it was available as a paperback, because I'm noticing for myself is that when I have those kind of books that I want to keep in my repertoire, I like having a paperback copy, which, by the way, this is not available in paperback. It's just available in Kindle, and I'm super sad now. But that's okay. I will survive somehow. And yeah, I definitely think I'm going to be taking parts of the advice and trying it out to see if I can make this work. And basically taking everything we talked about today and making a plan of action and seeing what I could come up with down the road for, projects for next year that are going to be started next week.
No, January.
That's it.
I feel like our January start in November, because we always have this next year plan, but then we're like, but no. Just saying, throwing that one out there. Because I say that every year and then I do it every year. It's a January project, but I can get it done. Yeah. No, this is definitely going to be one of those that, got mine color coded on like the ones that the whole book versus half the book versus I probably won't ever read this again type thing. But even just reading this last week, there were things that I jotted down to put in my own process that hopefully will help me out in my writing. And I do want to use this, like y'all were saying, as I want to write a prequel to my series, and then also get a prequel to the next series that I'm thinking of. Start as I'm definitely going to take this into account because I've never written a short story. Y'all know me. My first book was 113,000 words. Like, that was short for me. So I definitely need to learn how to do this. So yeah, it was definitely a helpful book, even though it was short. I like short and sweet and to the point, and somebody that actually knows, hey, we're all writers. We all know the writing thing. Like, tell me something.
Yeah, I definitely appreciated that it was so short. I wish that she already had a follow-up.
Yeah.
And I want to find out more about the group that she has with Frankie Love. I'm interested in that. And of course, now I have a new project that I want to work on. So there is that.
Woohoo!
So many damn projects. I just wish I could think it and then it's typed. That would make it much easier.
Yeah, I feel that.
I'm gonna have to try dictation again.
I told my mom I wanted to be buried with all my unfinished projects so I could work on them in heaven.
Sounds like purgatory. You'll never finish.
No,
Ghost is writing books.
we had a coworker pass away. We had a coworker pass away, and he had a binder that he just called his life work. And so they actually buried him in it. And I was like, that's such a cool idea. I want to do
Wow.
this. Yeah.
That is a cool idea. Okay, so let's go ahead and sign off and let these people go about their business on this fine Saturday. CJ?
Yes, ma'am. My name is CJ Bloyer. I'm a writer of things. My link tree is below, including my piano stuff and the Instagram of our cats, our 3 hellions. And as Amber said at the beginning, I do have some publishing stuff out there. I do have a blog for my piano business, and then I also have a free YA fantasy serial called the South Deer Island Chronicles. So go check all that out.
All right. And I'm Sky. I write fantasy, typically paranormal romance, under the name SD Hegyes. And I've got a few things out, and I'm working on lots of revamping stuff coming in 2023. That's not happening until 2023 because money. So yeah. Otherwise, I'm just here and hoping to do more videos soon, possibly more live streaming, but we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
I am Amber Craft. I write paranormal romance. I stream every Sunday on the YouTube at 11 Central and on Twitch Wednesdays, hopefully starting again this Wednesday, at 8 Central. 3 surgeries and 2 deaths this week have pretty much taken all the energy I had, so Wednesday didn't happen. But 2023, I am kind of planning to be a big bang of stuff. I've got stuff in the works. So podcast is coming back and all of that. So go check out my YouTube, and it's got all my links on it because I know I don't have a link tree. That's one of the things I've got, on my list of 2 pages worth to do this year. So go check out my page.
At least the link tree one isn't that bad to do.
True.
And my name is Tamara Woods. This is my channel where I talk about books and writing. I write cozy mysteries and I write spicy stuff on the side. And I'm so glad that y'all visited with us today and talked with us about this book. I feel like this was a really good one for the repertoire. And I'm not sure when I'll be posting the poll for October. It'll be sometime soon in the Goodreads group. And if you'd like to help us figure out what we're going to be reading, the link for the Goodreads is in the description, as well as the link for these lovely ladies so that you can find them if you haven't already. Thank you once again, and we will see you next time. Bye, guys.